All right, today we're jumping into a really powerful sermon from Pastor Sam Yoon that unpacks a fascinating human paradox. It all centers around one of history's most famous figures, Peter, and a single moment where he was called both a divine foundation and, well, a demonic obstacle, all within the span of just a few breaths.
So let's start with this, because it's one of the most jarring lines in the entire Bible. Jesus says, "Get behind me, Satan." But you have to see who he's talking to. This isn't some enemy or a villain. He's saying this directly to Peter, his right-hand man, his closest friend. I mean, how on earth does that happen?
And the context just makes it even more baffling. You see, in one breath, Jesus calls Peter the rock, the literal foundation for his entire church. But then, just moments later, he calls him a stumbling block, an obstacle, and even connects his words to Satan. It's the same guy getting two completely opposite labels. The whiplash is just incredible.
So this brings us to the central question that Pastor Sam Yoon really dives into in his sermon. How is this even possible? How can a person swing from being this perfect model of faith to a demonic roadblock in what feels like a split second?
Well, according to Pastor Yoon, the answer isn't that Peter was a hypocrite. The answer is that he was human. The contradiction comes down to one simple thing: which voice he was choosing to listen to in that moment. So, when Peter was speaking as the rock, he was tuned in to what Pastor Yoon calls the Father's revelation. This wasn't Peter coming up with some brilliant insight on his own. No, it was a divine truth that was flowing through him, something way beyond his own human intellect. But then, just like that, he became a stumbling block. He'd completely switched channels. Now he was listening to human concerns. His own logic, his fear, his desire for things to be safer, easier, and a lot less painful for everyone involved.
And this leads to what might be one of the most challenging ideas in the whole sermon. Pastor Yoon suggests that Satan's work isn't always this big, monstrous, obvious evil. Sometimes it's just our own well-intentioned human effort that's totally disconnected from any divine purpose. Pastor Yoon really drives this point home with a verse from the Psalms. The idea is that any work we do, no matter how sincere or noble it might look on the outside, is ultimately empty if it's not aligned with the bigger divine plan. It's just labor in vain.
And the sermon gives two really powerful examples of this. First, you have Peter's rebuke. It came from a good place, right? A place of love. He wanted to protect his friend. But that human concern put him in direct opposition to the divine mission. Then there's a modern story. A delivery driver who literally works himself to death for his family. It seems so noble, but Pastor Yoon frames it as vain labor because it was disconnected from a higher purpose.
Now, as Pastor Yoon points out, this wasn't just a one-time thing for Peter. This back and forth, this constant switching between incredible faith and crippling fear, well, it was a pattern that showed up again and again in his life. I mean, you can see this roller coaster play out over and over. He has this amazing moment of faith, literally walking on water, and then he looks at the storm, a human concern, and he sinks. He boldly promises he'll die for Jesus, and then, just a few hours later, his fear takes over, and he denies even knowing the man 3 times. It's this constant dizzying switch.
And this is where Pastor Yoon brings this ancient story right into our own lives. He says this isn't just about Peter. This is about all of us. It's the human condition. We all have moments where we are a rock for the people around us, strong, clear, and full of faith, and we all have moments where our own human concerns turn us into a roadblock, sometimes for the very people we're trying to help.
And this is so important. The story doesn't end with failure. Pastor Yoon makes it incredibly clear that the same Jesus who delivered that harsh rebuke is also the one who offers total and complete restoration.
After the resurrection, Jesus finds Peter, and he doesn't shame him, he doesn't condemn him for those 3 denials. Instead, he mirrors those 3 failures with 3 questions of healing. 3 times he asks him, "Do you love me?" And for every single one of Peter's affirmations of love, Jesus gives him his mission back, renewed. Feed my lambs, take care of my sheep, feed my sheep. He takes Peter's greatest moment of failure and makes it the foundation for his life's work. Pastor Yoon has this beautiful line. He says, "This is the moment the cracked stone is cemented again by grace." So this all brings us to the final practical takeaway. Pastor Yoon doesn't leave this as just a cool story from the past. He frames it as a very real, very daily choice that each one of us has to make.
The whole point isn't to get puffed up about our rock moments or to be crushed by our roadblock moments. The point is simply self-awareness. It's about waking up every day and consciously asking, what's my source right now? Am I trying to listen for that quiet, divine revelation? Or am I just letting my own loud, anxious human concerns run the show?
And that leaves us with this final, really provocative question. In all the decisions you're facing right now, in your struggles, at your crossroads, which voice are you actually following? Is it the one that's leading you toward a greater purpose, even if it's the harder path? Or is it the voice of comfort, of fear, of worldly wisdom that might, with the absolute best intentions, be turning you into a roadblock to something far greater?